So, hello everyone. It's me, Sybil Starr. I'm back again this month with a report on the lunar eclipse that is happening tomorrow night on January 20th at 9:15 p.m. Pacific time. It is visible on the North and South America and parts of Europe. It should be visible to pretty much everyone in those areas. It is what is called a supermoon, which means that it is a moon that is very close to the Earth, so it's going to look very big. It is a blood moon because it is a total lunar eclipse. And what happens in a lunar eclipse is that the Earth comes between the sun and the moon. It happens only at a full moon. And so the moon herself has no light. She reflects only the light of the sun. So when they are aligned in such a way that the shadow of the Earth comes between the sun and the moon, it makes the moon look red. So it's very dramatic. It is also called a wolf moon. And it is called that due to some Native American tribes call the January full moon the wolf moon. And I think it's very appropriate for a lunar eclipse with the symbolism of the wolf howling at the moon. You can just kind of see that imagery and what that evokes in you. Lots of different emotions. The full moon, any full moon, affects the tides. It affects the behavior of animals. It actually even affects the Earth herself. The ground rises about 6 inches in response to the full moon. And we know what it does to humans. Our emotions get very strong and we lose some of our filters. We know that emergency rooms and police stations and many things see a whole lot more activity at the full moon. So at a full moon lunar eclipse, especially a total one that's a red moon, we can expect that our emotional level to be running really high. And so it is a release of emotions. And, they have found out that the moon herself, her core is water. And we associate water with feelings, with emotions. So it is a time of purifying and cleansing our emotions, our emotional body, through crying, through laughing, through however it is they are released. And we can expect a little bit of extra craziness at this time too. So just kind of be prepared for that, especially if this full moon impacts your life in your chart. This full moon is actually at 0 degrees of Leo. So if you have planets in the late degrees of Capricorn or Cancer, or early degrees of Leo or Aquarius, or even I think those are the main ones really, you can expect that emotions can be running a little high at your house. But you'll see it, everyone is going to experience it in some way. A lunar eclipse is always a harbinger of change. It brings change. What happens also in an eclipse is when the light of the sun is blocked, it changes the electromagnetic field of the Earth. And many indigenous people, they would, and I mean all over the world, and many ancient traditions and cultures knew that the energy was different. And so they would do things to kind of keep the energy moving, and they would do things like make a lot of noise, and many would go inside and pray and just stay out of the energy because it does get a little crazy in this energy. And it's actually the energy of a lunar eclipse lasts about 3 days, but the impacts of it can last about 6 months. But as I was saying, it brings change, and the moon is our heart. It is our emotional body. It is our feelings, and it's also our soul memories. And so often things come to light, memories are retrieved, and things come to light that were not known before. And it impacts mostly our personal relationships. Many relationships go through many changes during a lunar eclipse, especially if it is impacting your own chart in a big way. And new relationships can also happen because this particular eclipse is conjunct the North Node. So it's the way forward. So it's if you're seeing things going on in your relationship, and let's just say things that you've been holding for a long time and they finally just come out, know that it's important that they do. And sometimes we're a little messy when our emotions come up and the truth comes out of how we're really feeling. This particular eclipse is at 0 degrees of Leo. That's like 0 degrees 51 minutes. So it's almost 1 degree. So you can say 0 to 1 degree. And it's conjunct the North Node, as I said, and so it's the way forward. And Leo is the archetype of the divine child, and it's also the shadow of the child. So you're going to see both. Our own inner child needs may come to light right now. Maybe some unresolved, some unhealed places in our heart related to our inner child that needs some attention and needs some love. And the flip side of that is we could certainly see the shadow. We could see the places where we act out from the inner child. We're certainly seeing that on a national stage, a tantrum being played out by someone who's not very grown up. So just know these both can happen. But Leo is the way of the heart. It is the way of love, and is showing us what it is we actually need, what our hearts need. It's showing us the way of the heart and what our hearts actually need. Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun has to do with or the sun astrologically. It is the astrologically, it represents the divine spark within each of us. And so what another piece of this, I believe, is about is one of the teachings of the divine child, as well as the divine spark, is the importance of play. And I know in these really hard times, it's like, oh my God, how can I play? The world is so crazy. And yet, it's when we play, when we laugh, when we do things we love and enjoy, just small things, even like, having coffee with a friend and laughing, and enjoying your time with your children, playing with your animals, whatever it is that lights your heart, that lights that fire in your heart and keeps it going, that makes life worth living. Even though times can be really challenging, and I'm certainly not saying that they are not, it's important to keep that flame alive. And the other thing is, it also has to do with doing what we love, and not just for pleasure, but for our life purpose. The sun has a lot to do with our life purpose. And, there is a quote from Howard Thurman that I think is really relevant. And it is, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because the world needs people who have come alive. And we are in the midst of this really difficult solar eclipse in Capricorn that has all of this teaching around maturity, responsibility, accountability, hard work, all of those things that we know need to be done. And yet there's also this paradox, and I feel like it's saying this is how we move through it. Because astrology doesn't always just tell us what's going on. It tells us how to navigate the energy and to take that time to find something that you love to do, one, and two, do what you love. And the other archetype of Leo is about the king and the queen. And it is that part about being lion-hearted. It is about being brave, courageous, and having the strength. And this is what gives us the strength to move through these hard times that make life worth living, is to find those places in our lives that give us that joy, that nourish our life force, that make us want to get up each day, even though there are things that are really hard. The King and Queen is also a lot about leadership. It kind of reminds me, the Moon in Leo kind of reminds me, if you're a Harry Potter fan, of Gryffindor. You know, that lion-hearted, courageous, brave, willing to take a risk, but also having a lot of integrity and leadership. Okay, and it's about leading with the heart. You know, the way forward is through the heart, so it's leadership with the heart, leading through the heart, and boy, do we ever need that. And I feel like that is a big piece of what we're being shown. This is the way to move this energy, is to bring our heart back into the situation. The opposite pole is Aquarius, the sun in Aquarius. It's also conjunct the South Node in Capricorn and Mercury in Capricorn. Both are Saturn ruled, and both signs have a tendency to dissociate from their feelings or disconnect from them. And we're being shown that the head, and they're both kind of heady signs. Although Capricorn is an earth sign, Aquarius can very much live in their head. And so it's very much about the head being in service to the heart. And this is a teaching that we have had for a long time from our grandmothers and from different indigenous tribes, is that there's a saying, the longest journey you'll ever make is that 16 inches from your head to your heart. I think it was Grandma Aggie who actually said that. But it's important to know that we're in that time. The Aquarian sun is also conjunct the fixed star Altair. And conjunct means is it's right next to it, like they're right in the same place in the sky, and their energy is very tightly merged. It's within a few minutes of exact, so it's very strong. And Altair is a very bright star in the tail of Aquila the eagle. So this says to me that eagle medicine is really strong right now. And eagle is showing us the way forward with its visionary qualities, with its spiritual awakening, and with its leadership. Eagle has that bird's eye view and can see the whole picture, and we can only see pieces of it. And yet it's very much about strength and courage and standing up for what is right and true. But he's also a messenger, from the Creator, from Great Spirit. So when eagle shows up, it says this is an important message. And a couple other things that are happening is that the planet Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius in Aries, is in a square to this eclipse, and squares are challenges. And so I feel like the challenge, well, first off, Uranus can bring spiritual awakening. It always brings change. It can bring unexpected opportunity and synchronicities. And in a square to this eclipse, it feels to me like it's challenging, well, because it also brings downloads. Uranus is connected to the divine mind. So it is, I feel like the challenge is to move from the past into the future, through the heart, through bold ideas. There's, Uranus has a lot to do when ideas whose time has come is present. And I feel like there's so many ideas whose time has come, and it's going to take some bold decisions to move forward on this. Now, and also just, I feel like awakenings around that spiritual direction, okay, for each of us, and especially if it's in your personal chart. This eclipse is really activated, that eagle, this Uranus really wants to show up and to really pay attention to synchronicity pay attention to, I call it breadcrumbs that Spirit leads all along the way. And the final thing I want to talk about is Mars is in a square to Saturn. Mars is the planet about just do it, just get her done. Mars is in Aries, it wants to charge forward. Saturn is in Capricorn, its own sign. It says, no, slow down, you've got to think this through, put the brakes on. So it can feel like driving with the brakes on. So it's like you have all these great ideas, this is what you want to do, and yet the time may not be right to implement them. It's time to prepare and plan, and sometimes it's just simply our circumstances that slow us down. We want something to look a certain way, and it's just not quite time. There are some details that need to be worked out. So anyway, this is my report for the lunar eclipse that is happening tomorrow night on January 20th at 9:15 p.m. And I hope this was helpful. All right. Thank you.